So what I'm talking about is equanimity. And that's a word that when I say it, most people have a vague inkling of what it is, but it's out there on the periphery. It's been around for thousands of years in all the religious, spiritual, and philosophical traditions. And for sure, it's not one that occurs much in our corporate leadership lexicon. And all day, 24/7, despite our tremendous intellectual capacity, that is the primary activity of our mind, is prejudging situations as good or bad. The second thing that's happening is that we think we're correct in our prejudgment of what's good or bad. We think we know whether something is going to turn out good or bad. The third thing that's happening is that we think and believe that we actually control events outside of ourselves much more than we do. Maybe the coronavirus is good for us in the sense that it reminds us that we're not as in control as we like to think we are. When you recognize those three things as facts, suddenly equanimity opens up as a possibility, spontaneously, by itself. You suddenly go, aha, hey there. Wouldn't you like to experience life as a little less stressful than you currently are? Maybe a big ask. What if I put it like this? What if you could have more energy and attention available for what's real and what matters, instead of worrying about stuff that ultimately turns out to be beyond your control, or that turns out to be not as bad as you thought it would? Another way to put this would be, what if you could be less affected by stuff that happens? So in your relationships, for example, the things that people say and do, or at work, the things that people do or don't do, and the politics out there in society that reaches us through the news and social media. What if you could hear, read, listen to bad news, and be a whole lot less affected by it? Now, I'm not talking about becoming a robot or not caring. I'm also not saying that you have to be like a shoo-ah hippie and not do anything. Everything's just groovy, man. Of course, you can still change your circumstances, reach out to change the world. It's about how you do it. What I'm talking about is being able to navigate through all of life's turbulence while remaining peaceful and still participating fully in life. Now, maybe you're skeptical. It sounds like I'm offering some kind of silver bullet. I'm not. I'm not saying that all your problems will go away or that you will have some instant success that makes it all irrelevant. Life is challenging. It's hard work. It's full of conflict and disappointment, and things often don't go your way, despite the best promises of those life coaches and motivational speakers out there. What I am offering is a way to navigate through that while remaining peaceful, hopeful, and confident. And what I'm offering is not new. It's been around for thousands of years in all the religious, spiritual, and philosophical traditions. The problem is we've lost touch with it a little. Largely because we've become obsessed with and reliant on scientific explanations of things over self-observation and self-management. And also because we've come to believe that we're completely in control of the universe, life, nature, events, everything. Maybe the coronavirus is good for us in the sense that it reminds us that we're not as in control as we like to think we are. And that may be a useful message for us. So what I'm talking about is equanimity. And that's a word that when I say it, most people have a vague inkling of what it is, but it's out there on the periphery. And for sure, it's not one that occurs much in our corporate leadership lexicon. In fact, it occurs nowhere in the corporate leadership lexicon, and in our personal one too. It's pretty much absent, missing. So let me give some examples of what equanimity might look like if it was present and in practice. In previous videos, I did a series on hope, and I talked about what it's like when you've put out that big proposal and you're hoping that it comes in, and you've got a lot of hope attached to that. And then suddenly you get the news that it's not going to happen. You didn't get the deal. And you experience that devastation and despair. You can carry that around with you for days, weeks, months. And it can impact your level of motivation, your experience of life, the way you treat people, and so on. What if you could just be even? Like, oh, that's interesting. We didn't get it. What's next? And be able to move on very quickly from that. Resilience is defined as your ability to recover from a setback, how quickly you can do that. And so equanimity can support you in doing that, because when you have equanimity, you're less affected by those kinds of things happening, by that bad news. Maybe you say you've got that one sorted. Let's try this one. Let's say at work or in your personal life or on social media, somebody criticizes you in public, in front of other people or says something about you behind your back, can you remain unaffected by that? Instead of going into defensive mode, instead of starting to treat them aggressively, whatever, you continue being exactly the same towards those people, no matter whether what they're saying about you is good or bad. And maybe that one doesn't get to you so much. So how about this one? In the corporate space at work, isn't it true that when something goes wrong, we have to now launch an inquiry every time into what happened? Why did this happen? Who was at fault? Who was sleeping on the job? Why did I have to pick it up? Somebody else should have. And then we go into a big inquiry and we have to set some processes in place and show that we're doing something to make sure it never happens again. And it's all control, control, control. And sometimes an inquiry and, changing the process may be valid, but very often stuff just happens. There's no amount of process that can take care of that. And what we need to be able to do is recognize, oh, it's just something that happened. Thank goodness we caught it. Let's move on. Equanimity enables you to be able to look more realistically at a situation and not go into that reactive mode, trying to protect against every future possibility, and rather just recognizing what's happening right now. Where does my attention need to be? Where do I need to go next? So I'm sure at least one of those scenarios resonates with you, I hope. And here's a little explanation about what's going on there. Basically, three things are happening. The first is that we as human beings tend to prejudge every situation as either good or bad. And I'm not talking about ethically so much, although that does come into it, but that's another argument for another day. It's more about its impact, its perceived impact on me. So we're getting a new boss. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I've heard that this political party is putting out this message. If that happens, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm applying for this job and they haven't got back to me. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm trying to date this person. Is that they, haven't replied or they said this? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? All day, 24/7, despite our tremendous intellectual capacity, that is the primary activity of our mind, is prejudging situations as good or bad. The second thing that's happening is that we think we're correct in our prejudgment of what's good or bad. We think we know whether something is going to turn out good or bad. We'll come back to that in a minute. The third thing that's happening is that we think and believe that we actually control events outside of ourselves much more than we do. So let's go back to that previous point about the prejudging good or bad, whether we are always right. If you go and do a bit of research into your own life, I'm sure you'll find that there are many things that you thought would turn out good. You started dating someone, you thought this was the perfect person for you. It didn't turn out so good. You thought this was the perfect job. It didn't turn out so good. You thought this was going to be a great boss. It didn't turn out so good. And there were other times when you thought this was a situation to be avoided at all costs, yet you were forced into it. And guess what? It turned out to be a fantastic opportunity. It turned out to provide great lessons. So there you have it. You're not the best predictor of whether things are going to turn out good or bad. The other thing about control, we think we control events and we can determine how they turn out. That's also not true. I mean, if you think about it, even your own heart, you don't beat your own heart, breathe your lungs, work your spleen. If you did, you'd be dead in 10 minutes if it was up to you. Because guess what? You'd be too busy on your phone reading all that bad news, or you'd be too busy worrying about what's going to happen in the future to pay attention, and so you wouldn't survive. So you're not even in control of that. Fortunately, it takes care of itself. Yet, despite that, you think you control all kinds of events outside of yourself. Like when you send that angry email and you think you know how the person's going to respond. They're going to come back and say, I'm sorry, you were right. How can I help? It doesn't happen, does it? Or you send that proposal and you think this is the perfect thing to put in. It's going to come back. No, it doesn't. And then you do another one that maybe is a bit of a slapdash job and you get it. And so we're often not as in control of things as we believe we are. And so equanimity arises when you recognize these three things as facts. The first fact is that your mind is doing that. It's always prejudging situations. The second fact is that you believe you're correct and you're not. Always, very often, correct about how things are going to turn out. And the third fact is that you don't control as much as you think you do. When you recognize those three things as facts, suddenly equanimity opens up as a possibility, spontaneously, by itself. You suddenly go, aha, life kind of happens by itself. And sometimes things turn out okay, just without me even having to do anything. And the things that don't turn out okay, well, if I look at it historically, I've always managed. Somehow I've survived. I've dealt with stuff. So can I take my foot off the gas in terms of controlling so much, or attempting to control, or worrying about how things will turn out, and decide, having observed that life moves on its own, a lot of things take care of themselves, then choosing what can I control in this situation here right now, put my attention on that one thing, or that one most important thing that I can control and influence right now, and leave the rest to take care of itself, trusting that a lot of it will take care of itself, will turn out okay, not the way that I fear, and that whatever doesn't turn out ideally, I will be able to deal with. So that's equanimity in a nutshell. It's a big topic, and if you'd like to know more, there's an article on my blog called Equanimity, a Word for Our Time. The link is in the credits to this video. And then if you'd like to take that further and perhaps develop equanimity as a competence, as a stable personality trait even, then I'd invite you to take part in the masterclass, which is also available via the shop page of my website, link below as well. I'm sure you'll find great benefit in that. So thank you. I'm Neil Bierbaum, signing off. Don't forget to subscribe and go forth and be equanimous.